"Nobody knows what utter hell it is to be Prince of Wales," Charles said in November 2004. His idea of hell, it must be said, is unlikely to be shared by most of his future subjects. Take, for example, accounts of what it is like to have Prince Charles come to stay for the weekend. Before a visit to one friend in northeast England, he sent his staff ahead a day early with a truck carrying furniture to replace the perfectly appropriate fittings in the guest rooms. And not just the odd chest of drawers, the truck contained nothing less than Charles and Camilla's complete bedrooms, including the prince's orthopedic bed, along with his own linen. His staff had also made sure to pack a small radio, Charles's own lavatory seat, rolls of Kleenex Premium Comfort lavatory paper, Laphroaig whiskey and bottled water for both bedrooms, plus 2 landscapes of the Scottish Highlands. The next delivery to arrive was his food, organic, of course. His hosts decided, despite their enjoyment of his company, not to invite him again. Their experience was less distressing, however, than that of the family asked to host Charles for a long weekend on the Welsh borders. Over the preceding months, they'd invited many friends for the 4 meals at which he'd preside. They'd also hired staff and ordered in masses of food and flowers. But on the Friday afternoon of Charles's expected arrival, there was a call from St. James Palace to offer regrets. Under pressure of business, the prince could not arrive until Saturday morning. The following day, the same official telephoned to offer regrets for Saturday lunch, but gave the assurance that Charles would arrive for dinner. Then, that afternoon, the whole visit was cancelled due to unforeseen circumstances. The considerable waste and disappointment were not mitigated when Charles later revealed to his stricken hostess the reason for his cancellation. He had felt unable to abandon the beauty of his sunlit garden at Highgrove, he said. For about 6 months of every year, the heir to the throne enjoyed a unique lifestyle in beautiful places, either in seclusion or with friends. Although his traveling staff, a butler, 2 valets, chef, private secretary, typist and bodyguards, could anticipate most of his movements between his 6 homes, the only definite confirmation of his final destination, especially to his hosts, would be the arrival of a truck carrying suitcases, furniture, and food. There then followed endless telephone calls with his staff as he changed his mind about his future plans and projects. For 4 months every year he lived in Scotland, where he expected people to visit him from London, usually at their own expense. Sometimes, he traveled abroad. After the death of the Queen Mother in March 2002, for instance, he flew to Greece to stay for 3 days on his own in a monastery on Mount Athos. Unfortunately, someone took a photograph that showed the prince stepping off a boat with a butler and a remarkable amount of luggage in tow, certainly far more than anyone could need for a few days' meditation. The image didn't exactly chime with the theme of the imminent Jubilee celebrations to emphasize the monarchy's relevance in modern Britain. Charles's staff could see this, even if he couldn't. Julia Cleverton, an executive on one of his charities, stuck the photo on her office wall and wrote, with risky irony, "We're off to Mount Athos with 43 pieces of luggage." The prince's other free weeks were likely to be divided between well-off friends. At Chatsworth, the 175-room home of his beloved Debo Mitford, the Duchess of Devonshire, Charles and Camilla would be assigned a whole wing for up to 3 weeks. During the shooting season, the prince opted for the company of Gerald Grosvenor, the Duke of Westminster, at either Eaton Hall, near Chester, or at the Duke's Shooting Lodge in the Forest of Bowland in Lancashire. In between, he stayed at Garrowby, the home of the Earl and Countess of Halifax in Yorkshire, and with Chips and Sarah Keswick in Invermark, Scotland. Even his personal policeman was roped in to cater to his comfort. If the prince had to attend a function, the policeman would arrive with a flask containing a pre-mixed martini. This would then be handed over to the host's butler along with a special glass that Charles insisted on using. And if he was expected to sit for a meal, the host would be informed in advance that an aide would be delivering a bag containing the prince's food. This was in complete contrast with the Queen, who always ate what everyone else was having. None of this petulant behavior would be on show, however, when Charles emerged in public. On those occasions, he'd show what appeared to be genuine interest in people and events. Few outsiders could guess, commented one advisor, whether or not he was just putting on a game face. Sir Christopher Airy, who became his private secretary in 1990, was once reprimanded for suggesting to Charles that a forthcoming visit was your duty. The prince shouted at him, "Duty is what I live, an intolerable burden." At home, his demands were constant, which meant an assistant had to be on call in Charles's office until he went to sleep. All his aides were subject to familiar daily tirades. "Even my office is not the right temperature," he'd moan. "Why do I have to put up with this? It makes my life so unbearable." Sir John Riddell, his private secretary for 5 years from 1985, once told a colleague that Charles was better suited to being a second-hand car salesman than a royal prince. "Every time I made the office work," Riddell observed, "the prince effed it up again. He comes in, complains that his office is useless and people cannot spell and the world is so unfair, then says, 'This is part of the intolerable burden I put up with.' This incompetence